Right to be Read podcast, episode number 116, interview with Didi Marks.
You are listening to the Right to be Read podcast, and this is your host, Ani Alexander.
Hey there everyone, it's me, Annie Alexander, and today, as always, I will try to encourage and inspire you with this episode too. So before we start, I just want to remind you that in the previous few weeks, I have been working very hard with my business partner, Jyotsna, on our newborn online business, Publish My Book Today. And I just want you to check it out because if you just want to write the books and not deal with all the redundant and quite boring things like the formatting, the editing of the text, the publishing itself, coming up with keywords, choosing the category, making the book cover, and many other things like the author website, audiobook production, and stuff like that, just check out www.publishmybook.today and you will see all the things that we could do for you. So the main aim is to make you spend your time at your best doing what you love, just writing. Write your book and we will deal with the rest. So once again, www.publishmybook.today. And did I mention that you basically keep all your royalties and all the rights for the book? So we don't really come up as publishers. We just do it for you for a fee, which is quite affordable, by the way. And the book is yours. You are the author. You are the publisher. You get the royalties. You keep all the rights and you can do whatever you want with your book later on. So I guess that's all I wanted to say about this. I'm not really a salesy person, so I hate self-promotion and sales and stuff like that. But I also know that unless I tell that, no one will know that it exists. And, if it keeps staying as invisible as it is right now, I won't be able to proceed with my goal and establish an online business, which I always wanted to do. Okay, well, so I guess that was all in terms of Publish My Book today. Now I will tell that I'm interviewing yet another fiction author, and this time it's a romance fiction author whose name is Didi Marks. So let's just go ahead and see what we can get from the interview because she has really interesting original ideas which I heard for the first time an author using for the book marketing. So let's dive in and see what Didi can share with us. Hello Didi, thank you very much for coming over to the show and welcome to the Right to be Read.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's really a pleasure. I haven't interviewed many women up to now, my fault somehow. So in terms of gender equality, I'm not very good at that at this point yet. And the other disbalance I'm having is I haven't been interviewing as many fiction authors as I'd like to. So today I'm really glad that I covered those 2 points because it's really great to have a female fiction writer over.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Okay, so let's start from the very beginning, and I just want you to know whether you were from those people who always dreamed to become writers, or it happened accidentally, or what was your personal journey of becoming a writer?
Sure. So, throughout my life and through my schooling and education and everything, I had more of a creative talent than, your typical math, science. So I always found myself kind of writing. However, I did follow more of a traditional career path and got into the corporate world. And about 5 years ago, I found myself without a job. And the process that I went through was, I was in this corporate job and I was making great money, but I was very unsatisfied and very unhappy. And so when I left there, I had this epiphany that, there's more to life and I think I have a bigger calling. And I just really searched my soul for what I was supposed to be doing. And the specific series that I'm writing right now, it's called the Beyond series, was really inspired by a dear friend of mine who I lost in a car accident about 22 years ago. So it's one of those things where, he passed away when I was 23 years old, and it was a very, very deep loss in my life. It was really kind of changed the trajectory of my life. And I just looked for him for guidance, and we've always kind of maintained this divine friendship from beyond. And I looked to him for signs and, helping me on my journey, my path. And so when I was at this, crossroads a few years ago, I was just like, I really need your help in identifying what it is that I should be doing. And I got very clear signs from him that it was, to pursue this book. And I call the book this love letter to friendship. And it really is based loosely on my life and about how friendships have inspired me over the years and how they really guide me to fulfilling, what my soul needs. And as soon as I kind of gave into that path, doors started opening for me left and right. And it's really been this tremendous journey. So in college, I was a marketing, public relations major. I took a lot of journalism. So I had a lot of writing in my background. And then I took some improvisational classes here in the U.S., which is more skit and, impromptu, thinking on your feet. And that training kind of gave me the ability to kind of write on my feet and think on my feet, and really turned into this wonderful story that was very unexpected for me.
Oh, I see. So basically, I'm always asking this question because it's different for different people. So how difficult it was to write a personal story? I mean, a story which is based on your personal life. Was it more difficult because it was personal, or the opposite, it had this healing effect of letting go, or, having,
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's interesting because as I've been doing book clubs, a lot of people have asked that because I really did pour my heart and soul onto the page. But like you just mentioned, it was really cathartic for me, and it was the final healing mechanism to letting go. And I feel like I've left this legacy for me and my friends and my family. And I guess when I started writing it, I really didn't think that it was going to have an audience outside of people that I knew. So I just was like, I just stayed true to my heart and wrote from my soul. And I think it really translated on paper. And my ultimate goal would be to help other people heal. I mean, everybody's lost somebody they love. So if they could read and gain anything from my story and help them heal, then that would be my best case scenario.
Okay, I see. Well, since it was your very first book writing experience, and basically it was the first piece you were sharing with your potential audience, did you have any writer's doubts or any fears that kind of, made you feel a bit uncomfortable about sharing it and putting it out there?
So I wrote it as a fictional story because it's loosely based on my life, but there is a lot of fiction in it. So I took liberties and I changed some things around so that, the reader can't really tell what's real and what's not real. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a way of protecting myself in terms of, I did put a lot of my personal feelings out there and into the book, but, everybody questions like how much of the book is real versus how much is fiction. And that's the thing that's like, I guess we'll just have to guess because it's all weaved in together. So that's kind of where I got my saving grace a little bit, is that, I could embellish in certain parts and make up things in other parts. So it's this combination of real plus fiction that only really I know what's real.
Okay, I see. And so how did you go? Was this traditionally published book, or did you go to the traditional route?
So it is, I went with a hybrid publisher. So it's considered self-published, but the publisher actually has very traditional publishing channels and distribution. So it's distributed as if it's a traditionally published book, but they were able to help me with my marketing and putting my brand out there and doing press releases and then getting it into the bookstore system so that traditional bookstores could purchase it. And it's on Amazon as well. But I think because I went that non-traditional route, I didn't have the pressure of, a large publishing house breathing down my neck for pages, so I could write at my own pace. Mm-hmm. So that was a little bit of a relief for me.
Okay, I see. So how difficult it was to make this decision and make a choice of who you are going to work with? Because many writers who are writing their first book, very often they write it, they complete it, and then they end up not really knowing what to do. Especially if it's a fiction book, it's kind of, it seems that it's even harder to make decisions regarding that. So what was your process? What did you consider? How did you choose who to work with, and how did it go?
So that's a really great question. I actually hired my publisher before the book was even written. So once I kind of gave into the process, I started seeking out different channels, conferences, people with like-mindedness to me, where I would get introduced to people to hear about their experience. And I met a woman that helped me with my marketing and branding, and we started building my website and putting my profile together. So almost like a trailer to a movie. We already started this process to get people out there knowing who I was and what my brand was. And during that process, through divine, I'll call it, connections, I was introduced to my publisher, who it just really fell into place. So I didn't do a ton of research, but I've been very happy with them.
Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, because there are, some scary stories around about different publishers you end up with and, very bad outcomes at the end.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about the writing process a bit. Since it's fiction, it's a bit different from nonfiction, where they already have the outline and the writers already know what they want to share specifically, and they are basically kind of putting their knowledge onto paper. Here we have a creative process where you have the basis of the story because it's based on your personal story, but you also have to kind of mix it up with fiction as different scenes and stuff like that. So how did you approach this process of book writing? Did you plot from the very beginning and you knew where you are going, or you had this freedom of kind of drifting away and writing whatever felt right at that point? How did you do that?
So it's interesting. I've been, since I started this process, I've followed several of my favorite authors to kind of understand what their creative process is and how they come up with their topics and things. And what I found is I'm very like these people, meaning that there is no format really, that it's all based on, who you are and how you choose to write. So I did not write page 1 till the end. I wrote chapters at a time. Mm-hmm. And the way that I can say how I chose to write a chapter, I didn't write every day either. I would write in creative bursts almost. So sometimes I would write for a week straight and then put it down for a month and then come back to it. And then I would re-edit kind of what I had already written and then add to it. So the whole process in total didn't take me very long, probably 9 months in total, but in condensed amount of time, it was probably a 30-day process. It went very quickly. But I just kept feeling like I kept getting ideas almost in my dreams, and I would keep a notepad by my bed and write things down. So I don't know where the inspiration really came from, but I always keep something with me to take note of a situation that's happening when I'm out in public or something that a character might do. But as far as writing it from start to finish, I kind of jumped all over the place and then I pieced it together at the end. So if my mood was very lighthearted, I would write maybe a funny chapter, or, if I was more sad that day, I might talk about the loss of my friend. So things like that where kind of my mood dictated what I wrote for that particular day. And I think there's a lot of emotion in the book.
Oh, okay, I see. Very interesting, because I had a very similar, writing process myself, and many writers were horrified knowing that, I was writing a completely separate pieces of the book in different parts and then putting it back as a puzzle. So, so it's nice to know that I'm not the only one.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how I did it.
Oh, yeah, great. So let's talk about what you said. You already did several things before the book was completed and before it was published. So what did you do, and what kind of results did you get?
So what I did was, I had this concept of a book, and I wanted to bring it to life. So and in my day job, I'm a project manager. So I think naturally I think about organization and what resources am I going to need to make this kind of project complete. And so when I saw this book, I was like, all right, I picked out the names of the trilogy beforehand. I actually went out to 99 Designs, and I ran a contest, and I filled out a design brief and had designers from all over the world help pitch me ideas for the book covers. And from there, I waited to see what spoke to me, and I chose different covers. My pen name was a combination of my real name and my friend's who passed away, his name. And I just started getting all those things in place. So I had business cards made up with my pen name. And when I would go to these conferences, I would hand out my card and tell people, oh, I'm writing a novel and this is what it's about. And would just start creating interest around the story and getting people engaged. And then I built out all my social media channels and started pitching kind of like the story on there and finding followers. And so it really helped the process, because then I was already committed to the book, right? So It was a concept in my head, but now that I've shared it with everybody, it was like I have to write it now. And fortunately, it came right away to me, but it was more of a, traditional marketing sense where I was like, okay, well, I have this product and I want people to know about it. So I'm going to get people started to be excited about it, so they're anticipating when it arrives. So it really worked well, I think, for me. I think I had already an audience engaged by the time the book got here, and they're all really excited for the next two books. So I think I'm establishing my audience pretty well on social media.
Okay, I see. So let's kind of, go forward and imagine that it's done, it's published, and what happens? I mean, were you one of us who kind of, who looked at the statistics every hour and was kind of, seeing what's happening? So what happened? Did you have higher expectations or lower ones? Were you disappointed or excited? What did you feel, and how did it go?
Right. So because I had kind of built up this audience, I had a lot of people pre-order the book. And in addition to what the publishing company did for me, I was really like kind of pounding the pavement in terms of getting in front of people. And I decided that the book club route was going to be something that I was going to pursue pretty hard. I have a lot of friends spread across the country, and I kind of announced like, hey, if you guys have a book club, I'll come to your book club and I'll talk to you about the book. And that seemed to be really exciting for people. And I've done kind of a dozen book clubs kind of around the Midwest where I've gone, and everybody has read the book, and then they have the ability to ask me kind of similar questions that you're asking me. So it's been a really unique process. And I would say that I made myself not have any expectations, because my ultimate goal is that I want to entertain people and also hopefully give them a message of healing. And if I can help even one person with that process, or share my experience with somebody who's experienced something similar, then that's kind of the reward. So I didn't want to look at it as a monetary basis and how much money can I make from this. Because that's really not what it's about. So I'm just I gave it to the universe. I was like, okay, I did what I said what I was going to do. I wrote this book. I wrote it from the heart, and now I need the universe to take over. And I think that's been the best approach I could have gone with, so that I'm not like, okay, where do I stand in the book ranking today, and how many sales do I have? Because I feel like once you let the greed take over, it's kind of taking away from the overall message. So that's at least personally what my position has been, is that I am grateful for every person that reads it and enjoys it, and I hope that it catches on. So.
Okay, yeah, I see. So let's just talk about, since it was your very first book, you basically were dealing with reviews and feedback for the first time, and apparently you had various different feedback, most probably, because that's what we get usually. So how did you deal with criticism and several negative reviews which you've got?
Right. So to be honest, right now I'm at a 90% rate of 4 and 5 star reviews. So I've only received a couple negative reviews. I've gone down multiple paths to receive reviews. So on Amazon, obviously people can review the book. I also went through a blog tour where a bunch of different bloggers for a free copy of the book gave me an honest review. So I received 30 reviews from those people. I'm on Goodreads. So there's all these different channels. And, I just say to people, here's the book. I'd love you to provide an honest review, when you're done reading the book. And so far, knock wood, it's all been extremely positive. But at the same time, I know that my book is only going to probably resonate with a certain group of people. And that my writing style, I tried to stay true to my voice and how I tell a story in person. And it seems that it came across that way. So, I didn't expect it to win any narrative awards or anything like that, but be more of a fun, lighthearted beach read. So, but I expect that people will have varying opinions, both positive and negative. And I just hope that just weaves its way back into my writing process to make me a better writer.
Okay, I see. So basically it's going to be a trilogy, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so how difficult it is to write a standalone book versus trilogy? What are the specifics you have to take into account in order to come up with series?
Right, so the first book, I just realized that the story I wanted to tell had way too much detail in it, that it would be pretty hard to include in one book. So what I did is I kind of told the story in my head and where they started versus, where the characters start versus where they end up. And in the first novel, I talk about kind of a long period of time. So I parallel these two characters' lives for over, 20 years. So those two books are written more on a span and gap of time. And the next two books will be more real time, getting into where they are today and moving forward. It'll also get into some backstories about some other characters. So I think I had to tell the whole story in my head first and understand kind of where I was going to end each book and what would kind of drive the audience to pick up the next one. So I just really, outlined it for 3 and then know kind of the highlights I want to touch on in each book. And then the detail just comes to me.
Okay, I see. So how are you? You already had an audience who was waiting for the book, the book 1, and now they are waiting for the book 2 and 3. And in between, how are you engaging them and how are you getting in touch with them and keep their anticipation up?
Right. Good question. So I'm staying consistent on social media, and I'm also, letting them know where they can find me, where I am with the current story so they can anticipate what's to come next. And then I'm also still encouraging people to invite me to come to their book club to speak so I can fill them in. And I've also been leveraging those book clubs as almost a mini focus group to ask them, what would you love to hear more of? Or what would you love to see in the next book? Or what character do you want to hear more about? And really helping them feel engaged in the story. And I've actually gotten some really good ideas that I'm incorporating into the story longer term. So I'm just trying to stay in touch with them as much as possible. And I'm hoping to have all 3 books out within a 2-year time frame so that I keep the audience engaged.
Okay, I see. So you mentioned social media. So which channels are you using most, and which are the most effective for you, and how are you kind of, using those channels?
So primarily, I use Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and I don't know if you've heard about this new website called Reader's Legacy.
Oh, yes.
Which is, yes, so that is a new channel that I've been exposed to. So what I want to do is mostly, I make sure, number one, that my message is consistent across all those channels. But for example, on Pinterest, what I'm doing is I've created boards for each of the characters in the book, and I pin things to them that I think the character would like to get people to follow me there. On Facebook, I usually post things like, if I'm at a book signing or I've had a book club, I use, post pictures there of those types of events. And then just things that the characters would say or things that inspire me as a writer, just to keep people with my name in front of them. I'm also doing some, so my book is loosely based on my life, and it's about a character, a female character, and it's a love story, and she falls in love with a chef. So one of the unique things that I've done is I've partnered with a chef in my process, and what he does is he comes to some of these book events with me, and he'll cook the recipes from the book.
Oh.
So that's been a really fun twist on a book club, and I run Facebook ads out there to say, hey, have us come to your next event, and he'll cook, and I'll talk to you about my book. So it's kind of a fun way to get a different level of audience, get foodies interested in the book and all that sort of stuff. So it's been really, really fun, and we've been getting great feedback.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine that it's quite original, and, people are not used to such book events.
Right,
So
exactly.
So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun, and and they may bring in people who are not really very booky, but
Right.
they love to eat. So
Yes.
so you'll
Exactly.
learn. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very interesting idea. So basically, this makes me think that there are always some ways to come up with original, non-standard ways
Yes.
of promoting the book. So although promoting fiction books is harder than non-fiction books, but on the other hand, fiction books have different stories and twists that you can kind of look more attentively at and come up with a very non-standard ways of capitalizing on those. Yeah. Well, very interesting. So basically, can we say what genre do you put it into? A romance book?
Yes. So if you were to dive a little deeper, I know they don't really use the term chick lit much anymore, but kind of a chick lit. It's like a light, fun read. There are some heavy topics in it, but I try to keep it as light as possible. But yes, it's based on romance at the lowest level. So that would be a good category to keep it in. Like I said, I've been trying to pitch the book clubs pretty hard. And actually, I'm ranking as, if you go on to Amazon and you type in the top 10 best book club books, I'm actually ranked as number 2 in that category. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so I've been trying to, kind of go after some non-traditional channels, and they've been working pretty effectively for me.
Okay, so we can kind of, say that most of your audience are women, since it's romance, and you kind of, you already have your definite reader profile there.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Well, which is sort of, in a way easy because you can relate to your audience yourself.
Right, and I also think, in addition to women, if anybody's just looking for like a beach read or something quick, I think this is in that category. I also think because of this whole connection to the beyond, people that people who follow people like Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, and other spiritual characters like that would appreciate the book in terms of having lost someone they love and wanting to stay connected to them in the physical world. How do they go about looking for signs from their loved ones? If they're, how do they keep in tune or listen to them? So that's another angle and audience that I've been going after.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that's another way of looking at it. So that part of your audience may not specifically be romance reader, but if they are positioned that way, the book is positioned from that angle, then they will definitely check it out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, true. Okay, so basically, what are your plans what are your upcoming plans? Once you finish your trilogy, are you kind of planning to continue writing, and is your goal writing career and being a full-time author?
Yes, actually, that is exactly what my goal would be, is that, I have this trilogy that I want to finish and give all my energy to, but I do see future books in my future, and that's why I travel a lot for work and things like that, so I'm always kind of keeping an eye open to things that happen and people that I could create into a character and what would be a good storyline. So I'm always kind of in a creative process and staying in tune to what's happening out there. But yes, my ultimate goal would be that I could do this for a living and do it for the rest of my life, because it's really where my passion lies.
Okay, yeah, I see. So if we want to wrap this up, let's just, imagine that someone who is listening to us right now has started writing his very first book. So what would be your biggest tips and your advice to that kind of person who has just started from scratch?
Sure. So I would say that, they should definitely stay committed to the process. And once they decide to make it a go, make it a priority, and to make sure the story is coming from your heart. I know there's a lot of nonfiction books out there, but those are things that are people's passion in their business life or in their personal life. So if it's something of a story that you feel compelled to share with other people, I would just trust yourself and make sure to write it down. And in that process, I would try and look for people that would be a good mentor. So if there's somebody in your genre that that inspires you or that you really respect, I would start following them. So one of the things that I did when I started writing my book is I started following a couple of the authors, New York Times bestsellers that I really, really love and that inspire me. And they both put out books last year. So I made sure to go to their local book signings, and I followed them online to see how people were, liking their books and what their audience members were saying. And so I just tried to stay close to what they were doing and try and mirror their process a little bit to incorporate into my style and how I went about my marketing process. So, you need to surround yourself with like-minded people if you want to go to conferences and learn more about the craft or more about marketing. There's great resources out there, but just stick with it. Don't give up on it, and, make sure that you get it to a point where it can be something you're proud of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Well, thank you very much for coming over. Thanks a lot. We did not mention the name of the book, and where they can find it. So maybe we can, and where they can find you. So maybe before we part, you could tell them where to go, what to look at, and how they could connect with you if they would like to.
Sure. So the name of the book is called Beyond Believing. It's part of the Beyond series. The next two books will be called Beyond Love and Beyond Forever. My website is ddmarks.com. You can find me there. All my social media handles are on there. You can sign up for a free chapter of my book. And there's also a lot of information about some of the events that I've been to and how you can follow me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, so I encourage everybody to go out and check me out and follow me there.
Oh, yeah, and keep an eye to the next event so you can have the chef cook for you.
Yes, exactly. The chef is always willing to cook, so you can find out more about him on my website as well.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming over. I wish you lots of success with the trilogy, and I'm very glad that you found something to pursue that is a real passion for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and wish you all the best as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, I guess that was it for today. I kind of would like to pay attention once again to the fact that actually, if you want, you will always find very original, non-standard approaches and ways to market your book that will stand out and bring in more people and bring in more eyeballs to the book and more attention. So basically, look around, think about ways how you can approach your book marketing. What is that something unique in it? What is something original that is related to your characters, maybe, to your story maybe, and come up with things that haven't been done yet, but at the same time seem very attractive and very interesting. So people will get interested and will pay attention and will actually get engaged with you and your story. And meanwhile, I guess before all that, you have to make sure that you have a story written and you have a book completed. So go ahead and keep writing, and I will be very happy to hear about your success and about your completed books. So don't hesitate to email me at anniealexander.com, and I will be more than happy to talk and discuss your books and to actually do a happy dance for your successful launch. Take care. Bye.